if you bent down to pick him up or see how he was, your mate, then you're the next one to go alongside him. Because the Germans would be, with their rifles and machine guns, would have you in their sights. So you carried on, zigzagging as you're going up the beach, until we got under the big, huge guns. And they couldn't go down like that. Machine guns couldn't get down, but they're safe. While we're getting off the beach, or getting all our stores off the beach, all them holes that we'd be about 20 foot wide, officers or sergeants with their loud howlers, I better not swear, but they were swearing, but they were shouting out, "Get off them bloody beaches," because there's hundreds of troops coming behind us. Get off them bloody beaches, you know, whatever they like to call us. We couldn't get off the beach because we're taking everything. The infantry are already going forward through them big slots. So that's the situation as it was. But while all that is happening, all the cruisers out in the bay, the battleships and everything, and the rocket launchers are all firing over our heads. Part of the 4,000 ship is already anchored out there, and they're pushing everything they can think of over our heads. I can remember saying to my mate, we're under one of the huge big guns, and we were saying, let's hope they don't lower their sights, or else we're going to cop it. That's how we looked at it, you know. Once they lowered their sights, we're in their way. Because we knew what was all going to happen. If we didn't get out the way, we knew we're going to be as well as the others. So to me, I was just wanting to get in out the way. We only got about 10 miles in. That's as far as we could get before the Germans started counterattacking. And we had to keep our heads down all the time. And we used to dig our own trenches. You know, the First World War, they had a huge big long trenches. That wasn't thought of. You dig your own trench. If you wanted to get below the ground, never used to take as long because we carried our being engineers. We carried our pick and shovel, which was only a small one, which done the job, anyway. And as long as you got below ground, because the blast of the shells would knock you down. The blast, let alone the shell. So again, you was in trouble if you didn't get below or get down on the ground. See? France was a fairly large country, isn't it? And we're fighting our way all the way. The villages, the towns, all depends where the Germans were at different places. Sometimes they had their own garrison towns, which they was very in numbers. But we had to, with the infantry and the artillery, we wasn't doing it on my own, but with all the artillery, the infantry behind, and the gunners and the tanks, all converging on a village or a town until we took it. The Germans had surrendered. They surrendered like as quick as they could to get out the bombardment. But the bombardment after 10 miles had stopped, and it was up to us and our infantry to work our own way in. And we're always, all our rifles already loaded with bullets, you might as well say, and we're ready for anything. See? After that 10 miles, and we got what we call a bridgehead, we knew we was there for good, I think. We've seen all the paratroopers come down, we've seen all the gliders come in over the other side, you know. You look in the sky, you can see them all. When the reinforcements come in, we thought, well, not too bad. And then we gradually took over the towns. The Americans was already as well going forward. Canadians was going forward, and all the various smaller armies that was with us, all under the command of the generals, of course. My boss was Montgomery. I was in what they call the 21st Army Group, and he was the boss of that, but the other bosses of the British Second Army was, I think it was Dempsey, General, all had their jobs to do and captured different things. Well, after we got so far in, I think it was Lyons, if you know where Lyons is in France, they said, right, lads, we got to get up into Belgium. Although the Germans were still either side of us, we, as a convoy, made a dash up into Belgium. And the infantry as well come up with us. And we had to get a point there where we could, you know, stand fast there in Belgium. And then we had to fight our way there through Belgium. That wasn't a piece of cake, you might as well say. We've got to get Antwerp. If anybody knows where Antwerp is in Belgium, that's the next place where more tanks and infantry are going to come across from England into Antwerp. So we got one place down in Normandy, the Mulberry Harbour. Now, if we can get Antwerp, we got a second place for more troops, more tanks, more planes to come in. And we captured Antwerp. But we had to demine Antwerp. We, being in the Royal Engineers, knew how to pick up mines. And we had to demine Antwerp because there was mines leading down off the roads into the docks of Antwerp. So it's another thing that we had to do, see? Make sure it was cleared for the tanks and the infantry. Every minefield we picked up was a nerve-wracking thing. But we got used to it. We lost some chaps. Some chaps were a bit too confident. And if you try to be too confident in picking up mines, you're gone, which some of the chaps did. Too confident, and picking up a mine is a job on its own. There had to be quite with the mine detector. That's how we used to pick it up. We was there for the winter. Oh, when the spring came along, we got nearly into Germany, battling all the way. If you know what Arnhem, or read the stories of Arnhem, that was another setback for us. The paratroopers had come over from England, dropped in on Arnhem to take the first bridge to get over the Rhine into Germany. We was already after two more bridges, the Eindhoven and the, well, I forget the name of the two bridges, three bridges altogether we had to capture to get across the Rhine into Germany, because all the Belgium, Holland and France were all bordering practically Germany. I'll tell you another thing that we done when we got into Holland. We got into Belgium, done the job what we done in Belgium. We had to get into Holland. And Holland, if you know, is full of canals. And the bridges had all been blown up by the Germans as they retreated. So therefore we're going to put bridges across. The tanks have got to come in, the infantry got to come into Holland to get round into Germany. And we put in dozens of Bailey Bridge. The old Bailey Bridge, the best bridge ever that they've invented. If you're with me, like, the bridge, a Bailey Bridge, was like a giant Meccano set. If you know your Meccanos, you know, and that's what the Bailey Bridge was. We would get the Bailey Bridge up in about 4 hours over a particular canal, over huge big shell holes, and if it was a river, of course, it had to be a longer one. And that again was a feat in its own self. In Holland, we got as far as Holland now, and the troops were all behind us or in front of us, whichever way you look at it. Now we've got to go into Denmark, which is next door to Holland, and then that would be the gateway fully for the mass troops, our troops, Americans, Canadians, all what you got, into Germany itself. And that's quite an achievement.